The rain had been falling for hours, a relentless storm that clawed at rooftops and turned quiet streets into rushing streams. In a small town near the river, 12-year-old Liam stood by the window, watching lightning rip through the sky like tearing paper. His German shepherd, Rex, pressed close to him, sensing his fear long before the boy even spoke. Every rumble of thunder made the glass tremble, every crash of wind shook the trees to their roots. But what frightened Liam most wasn't the storm, it was the swollen river behind their home, a beast awakened and hungry. Rex kept his eyes fixed on Liam, as if promising silently that nothing would harm him tonight. Outside, the storm grew louder, angrier. Inside, the bond between boy and dog grew tighter, a connection forged long before the disaster that was about to strike. When the power went out, the house fell into darkness. Liam grabbed a flashlight, its beam slicing through the blackness, trembling slightly in his hand. Rex stood tall beside him, nudging his leg with a reassuring warmth. The sounds outside were alarming. The river wasn't just overflowing, it was roaring, like something alive and furious. Liam moved closer to the back door, drawn by the noise, but Rex stepped in front of him, blocking the way with a protective firmness. It was as if the dog understood that something terrible was happening outside, something no human could fully grasp yet. The night felt cold, heavy with danger. But even in that creeping fear, Rex's steady presence kept Liam grounded. Minutes later, a loud crack echoed from the direction of the riverbank. It was the sound of wood snapping, a fence breaking under the pressure of rising water. Liam felt his pulse spike as the roar grew louder, closer, more violent. The river had broken free. Rex barked sharply, an urgent warning that made Liam stumble back from the door. Suddenly, a flash flood surged toward the house, its force terrifying and unstoppable. Water slammed into the yard, carrying broken branches, debris, and mud. Liam's eyes widened, panic gripping his chest. Before he could react, Rex grabbed his sleeve with gentle force and pulled him deeper into the house, away from the back entrance, refusing to let danger get near the boy he loved. Thunder exploded overhead, shaking the whole house. Liam could feel the floor vibrating under his feet as the river clawed its way closer. Every instinct in him screamed to run, to hide, but Rex stayed calm, guiding him with deliberate steps toward the higher level of the home. The dog's strength, his steady breathing, and the unwavering determination in his eyes gave Liam a fragile sense of hope. It was as if Rex knew a battle was coming, a battle between nature's fury and loyalty's courage. Liam whispered Rex's name, voice uneven, and the dog pressed his head against the boy's waist, promising silently that he was not alone. The storm outside became a monster. Trees bent under the wind's rage, the river roared like thunder on earth, and the entire neighborhood seemed to disappear into swirling rain. Yet inside that trembling house, a boy and his dog stood united. The world outside was turning into chaos, but Rex's loyalty stood like a shield, refusing to break. Liam didn't know that within the next hour, the river would strike harder than anyone could imagine. He didn't know that he would be fighting for his life. But Rex knew, and he was ready. The water burst through the back door with a violent crash, sweeping mud and debris into the house as if the river had decided to claim everything in its path. Liam screamed as the icy flood wrapped around his legs, pulling him off balance. Rex lunged forward, gripping the boy's jacket with his powerful jaws, refusing to let the torrent rip him away. The living room became a chaos of floating furniture and swirling water, but Rex's focus never wavered. He anchored himself, muscles trembling under the force of the current, determined to hold Liam above the rising tide. The boy clung to Rex's fur, coughing as cold water splashed against his face, but the dog's warmth was a lifeline in the freezing storm. The water climbed fast, devouring each step of the staircase as if the house were sinking beneath the river. Rex pushed Liam upward, guiding him toward the second floor where the flood had not yet reached. Liam stumbled, terrified, but Rex stayed behind him, nudging him up every step with relentless urgency. When a floating table slammed into Rex's side, the dog winced, but he didn't stop. He positioned himself like a shield between Liam and the debris, absorbing every blow that threatened the child. The storm outside howled, but Rex's courage screamed louder. Once they reached the upper landing, Liam turned toward Rex with tears in his eyes, hugging the dog tightly. Rex nudged him toward a bedroom, signaling that they needed a higher, safer spot. The house groaned beneath them as the floodwater continued its brutal climb, bending walls with pressure and shattering windows with debris. Liam could hear his neighbors shouting outside, but he couldn't see anyone through the sheets of rain and darkness. The storm had swallowed the world. Rex nudged the curtains aside with his snout, scanning the flooded street below. His body stiffened. Something had caught his attention, something urgent. Through the rain, Liam finally saw it. A young girl clinging to the top of her floating refrigerator as the current dragged her down the street. She screamed for help, voice drowning beneath the roar of the water. Liam gasped, turning to Rex, but the dog was already heading toward the staircase. He barked once, sharp, determined, before pushing his way downward, even though the lower floor was now a raging pool. Liam shouted for him to stop, but Rex didn't pause. He had protected Liam. Now he was going to save someone else. The boy followed to the landing, watching in helpless desperation as the brave German shepherd disappeared into the swirling water. Rex plunged into the flood like a warrior charging into battle. The current slammed into him, threatening to drag him under, but he kicked forward with all the strength in his body. Liam watched from above, praying through shaking tears as Rex's head bobbed through the water, moving with fierce purpose toward the drifting child. The dog's instinct for rescue was stronger than the river's hunger. The storm had taken control of the night, but Rex was taking it back. Rex's fur was soaked and heavy, but he didn't slow. Every stroke through the raging flood was a struggle, yet the fire in his eyes never dimmed. The girl's terrified cries grew faint beneath the roaring current, but Rex honed in on her as if her voice were a beacon only he could hear. When he finally reached the drifting refrigerator, he planted his front paws on its edge, stabilizing it just long enough for the girl to look into his eyes. Her face was pale with fear and cold, but when she recognized the dog, something like hope flickered inside her. She reached out with trembling hands, grabbing onto his collar. Rex growled, soft but firm, as if telling her to hold tight. Then, gathering every ounce of strength he had, he began pushing the refrigerator toward a nearby streetlight pole still rising above the water. The journey was brutal. The current kept pulling them sideways, spinning the refrigerator like a fragile leaf on a stormy river. Rex braced against it, barking sharply each time the girl began to lose her grip. Floating branches and shattered pieces of homes bumped against them, but Rex absorbed the impacts, determined not to let the girl slip back into the deadly flow. His muscles burned, lungs stung with exhaustion, yet his spirit refused to bend. Every push brought them inches closer to the pole, a lifeline in the drowning night. The girl cried as a massive log crashed nearby, soaking both of them in a wave of brown water. But Rex didn't flinch. He pushed harder. Finally, with a final surge of strength, Rex shoved the refrigerator into the pole, urging the girl to latch onto it. She wrapped her arms around the metal post, crying with relief as she felt something solid beneath her hands for the first time since the flood swept her away. Rex barked twice, checking that she was secure. The girl nodded, shaking violently, but she was alive. When Rex turned to swim back toward Liam's house, the current nearly flipped him underwater. He resurfaced, gasping for breath as the storm punished his body again. But he didn't stop. His boy was waiting, and Rex always went back to his boy. The swim back was even more dangerous. The current had grown stronger, dragging debris faster than before. Rex's limbs trembled with exhaustion, but the image of Liam screaming his name kept him going. Lightning illuminated the flooded street in bright patches, showing brief glimpses of Rex's head rising above the waves. Liam stood at the broken window, shouting encouragement through tears. Rex paddled harder, fighting the river as if challenging it directly. He refused to let the storm win, not while Liam needed him. When Rex finally reached the house, he could barely climb onto the staircase. His claws scraped against the slippery wood, his body shaking violently. Liam raced down the steps and grabbed him, pulling him into his arms with all the strength he had left. The boy cried into Rex's soaked fur, thanking him over and over. The storm continued raging, but inside that moment, nothing else existed except a child's love and a hero dog's exhausted heartbeat. The storm should have been fading, but instead it intensified, as if furious that Rex had defied it. Wind screamed through the shattered windows, and the house shuddered under its assault. Liam wrapped blankets around Rex's trembling body, rubbing heat back into him while whispering words of love and gratitude. But Rex's ears perked up again, alert, listening beyond the walls of the house. Liam froze. He knew that look. Someone else needed help. The storm hadn't finished taking. Rex forced himself to stand, legs unsteady, but determination lighting his eyes like fire. Liam pleaded with him to rest, to stay safe, but Rex nudged the boy gently, reassuringly, before turning toward the door. He was tired. He was hurt. But his mission wasn't over. The river outside roared even louder, dragging cars, furniture, and entire fences down the street. Rex stepped into the water again, his body protesting with every movement. Liam followed to the landing, terrified but helpless to stop him. As Rex swam through the black flood, the distant sound of someone crying for help echoed through the storm. It was a man's voice, weak but desperate, coming from a collapsed shed half underwater. Rex changed direction immediately, pushing his aching body toward the sound. Each wave that crashed into him felt like a blow meant to break him, but he kept moving. Courage had no room for pain tonight. When Rex reached the mangled shed, he found an elderly man trapped beneath part of the roof, barely keeping his head above water. The man's lips were blue, his breaths shallow. Rex barked, trying to alert anyone nearby, but no one else was close. He nudged the debris with his shoulder, trying to shift it, but the structure was too heavy. Instead, Rex swam behind the man and began tugging at his shirt collar, trying to pull him free. The man groaned as the pressure increased, but little by little, Rex dragged him from under the fallen beam. It was slow, brutal work, and twice the current nearly swept them both away. But Rex planted his paws against the debris, pushing with everything he had. After minutes that felt endless, the man's body freed itself from the wreckage. Rex wrapped his jaws gently around the man's sleeve and began guiding him across the flood. The man barely had the strength to kick, but Rex stayed alongside him, nudging him forward whenever he began to drift. Liam watched from the window, screaming Rex's name, tears streaking down his cheeks. The storm was unrelenting, and Rex's movements were slowing dangerously. But somehow, through sheer loyalty and instinct, Rex kept going. By the time Rex returned with the old man, he collapsed in Liam's arms, chest rising and falling in painful shudders. The boy screamed for the neighbors, who helped pull the man to safety. The storm had broken nearly everything that night, but it had not broken Rex. By dawn, the storm finally surrendered. The river's rage quieted to a painful stillness, leaving behind a town drowned in mud, debris, and heartbreak. But the first thing Liam noticed was the sunlight, a thin, golden beam breaking through the clouds like a miracle. He sat beside Rex, who lay wrapped in blankets, exhausted but alive. Liam stroked his fur gently, whispering how proud he was, how brave Rex had been. The dog lifted his head weakly, eyes half open, and touched his nose to Liam's hand. That small gesture was enough to bring the boy to tears all over again. The night had taken everything from them except the bond they shared, and it had become stronger than the storm. Neighbors gathered outside, calling out to one another, searching for missing family members, animals, belongings, pieces of their lives scattered by the flood. Word spread quickly about the brave German shepherd who had saved not just Liam, but a young girl and an elderly man as well. People approached slowly, offering blankets, warm water, and gentle hands to pet Rex's head. They spoke in hushed voices, in awe of the dog who had fought an entire storm by himself. Liam stayed close, refusing to let Rex out of his sight, fearing that the world might somehow take him away after everything he had given. Rescue teams arrived mid-morning, helping those stranded on rooftops and floating debris. One of the rescue workers knelt beside Rex and examined him carefully. The dog had cuts, bruises, and deep muscle exhaustion, but his heartbeat was strong. "He's a fighter," the rescuer said with admiration. Liam looked down at Rex proudly. He didn't need a medal or a title. Rex had proven his worth in the flood's darkest hour. But when the town's mayor arrived to check the damage, he insisted on publicly recognizing the heroic shepherd. People cheered, clapping with heartfelt emotion as Rex lifted his head, confused but happy at the gentle praise. As the sun climbed higher, casting brightness over the wrecked town, Liam helped Rex to his feet. The dog took slow, careful steps, leaning slightly on the boy for support. Together, they walked through the neighborhood, surveying the damage but also witnessing small miracles, neighbors helping each other, strangers offering shelter, and families reuniting with loved ones they feared lost. Every person they passed